Hey, welcome back once again. Today I am tackling a Daemonette. This might be a good scheme to take on in a batch painting scenario, but I like making these look good, and we're going for a little bit darker of a palette overall. Let's take a quick look and let's get started. We've got our Daemonette primed up. We're going to start by applying a little bit of Bloodfest Crimson to the model first. It's going to give us a nice undertone, nice and bloody underneath the flesh. You know, as most flesh tends to be. But let's go ahead and start that in. And I've taken my time to get a nice solid undertone. Let's go ahead and start working in some Citadel Daemonette Hide. This is a nice rich purple. We're going to take this a little bit warmer than this. The overall effect, I'll say at the end of it, a little bit darker than I had hoped, a little bit too heavy on the Daemonette Hide and not as much on the next color, but we'll talk about that in a second. Next up is going to be Moonray Flesh from Scale 75. We're going to use that to highlight the Daemonette Flesh. Works really well over these kind of colors, and this is pretty similar to some of the Scale 75 Undead Flesh tones that are included in their set. Just slightly altered to be a little bit more Citadel heavy. Once we've got that done, I'm going to start bringing in some burnt red into the hair and the claws. We're going to be building these both up red, and we're using this as kind of a compositional balance here. We've got two claws and one shock of hair kind of flying up in the air, so we're going to make all three of those red, big and bright, kind of balance that out in a kind of a triple pattern. Solid undercoat. We're going to hit that with some bold Pyrrole Red. You might notice some overspray here on the skin. Not a big deal. There are two ways to fix that. First way, obvious, go back and spray over it with the original tones. Usually the mid-tone is the best tone to correct overspray with. So in this case it would be Daemonette Hide, which is exactly what I'm going to do. Another option here is to glaze over it, again with that mid-tone. Mid-tones are magic. They're really good at doing corrections. So we'll be doing that before we move on too far. Another part to knock out here is the base. I'm going to hit the Secret Weapon base from Secret Weapon Miniatures with a little bit of Stynylrez Black primer. Once that's all primed up, I'm going to load the airbrush up with that Daemonette Hide again. We're going to kind of tie that color into the base as well. So kind of keep everything a little bit consistent, but we don't want to just keep this color the same. Once this is kind of in here, we're going to hit this with a wash. before finishing out the base. Let's go ahead and get out some of our Reaper Nightshade Purple. This is a near black tone. It's kind of a dark purple, kind of almost a grayish purple. We're going to hit all of the claws, including touching up a little bit of the overspray on the main claws, but mostly the claws on the feet and knees, as well as the eyes here with a bit of this Nightshade Purple. Just for a little bit of variation in color, I'm going to use Baharroth Blue to hit both the eyeshadow and the lipstick on this Daemonette. Like adding in a little bit of color, a little bit of makeup, tends to make them a little bit more bombastic, a little bit more excessive, a little bit more over the top, hence Slaaneshi. Karak Stone is up next. We're going to use this to base in the tabard on our Daemonette here, and we're going to make that just kind of this nice off-white. I'm going to do a few quick things here. First of all, I just hit all of the trim with a little bit of Antique Gold by Darkstar. Just filling that in. We're going to use some Druchii Violet on the base. Like I said, we're going to use a wash here. I'm just dropping a drop on here. Hitting the whole base. We'll let that dry. And we're also going to hit most of the mini with Magimix. This includes the tabard and the gold. Now we're not hitting the skin or the hair or anything with the Magimix. We don't want to stain that, but we do want to stain and shade in the tabard and the gold trim. Ulthyan Grey is a great tone for blending up a lot of things, and I'm going to use that to dot these eyes, hit the teeth, a little bit of mix with the red to hit some highlight tones without going pink, of course, using a little bit of that Moonray Flesh as well. And we're also going to use this a little bit on the tabard below as a highlight. So Karak Stone, Magimix, Karak Stone again, and then mix of Karak Stone and Ulthyan Grey. Now, I always struggle a little bit with hair definition, but what I'm doing here is I'm mixing in a little bit of that Moonray Flesh with our bold Pyrrole Red as we go, and kind of going back and forth over things. If it looks a little too peachy, a little too fleshy, I just glaze back over it with that bold Pyrrole Red once again. Kind of going back and forth, trying to hit the edges, hit the fold or waves, hit the kind of areas where the follicles are really kind of stretched out and catching some light. I've used a little bit of Regency Gold to highlight the gold bits here that have been washed down and are now back up, and just hitting this in a few spots kind of generally where light would hit it and glint. Meanwhile, you can see how the tabard turned out. Doesn't take too much there, and we're going to go back to the base here. I'm going to start off by using just a little bit of Baharroth Blue, and we're going to use Emperor's Children on the other side. Before we do anything, I'm going to hit that with a little bit of Daemonette Hide once more, keeping it nice and wet, and I'm going to do a little bit of wet blending. A little Baharroth Blue on this side, kind of taking the brush directionally in one direction, and then on the other side I'm going to use Emperor's Children Pink. Thought this blend would be interesting to make sure that you saw, because this is done with a traditional brush and came out fairly smooth. I'm using mostly wet paint, kind of going back and forth a little bit. If it looks like I'm a little too strong on the blue or the pink, I go back in with Daemonette Hide right in the middle, and I just kind of slap it in and blend it up, and I've got a nice little kind of almost cyberpunky, synthwavy sort of style thing. Now on the very ends of it, where it's the brightest, I mix in a little bit of Ulthyan Grey with my Baharroth Blue and a little bit of Ulthyan Grey with my Emperor's Children Pink, and that makes it just a little bit hotter. Once I'm happy with the base, I'm going to take a little bit of my Vallejo Model Color Black and rim the base. I like black rims. It's completely up to you what you'd like, but I think black is nice and neat and looks pretty cool. So there we go. And all that will be left after this is to actually attach the Daemonette to the base. So we'll use a small pin to kind of help brace it, but it won't be a very deep pin in her leg, since the leg of the Daemonettes, they're pretty small, pretty chicken-like, hard to drill into very far. So I will be careful and we'll attach it. And here we go, the final product, Daemonette of Slaaneshi. These are always really fun. I get to add another infantry model to my pile of infantry, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure you join me again next week. We'll have another video, and have a great week painting.